let's see. So first I want to tell you a little bit about the Truth and Democracy Coalition. It was formed to build a pro-democracy movement in America. We educate the public about disinformation, including propaganda that divides the sexes. We teach people to be critical about propaganda. We provide critical analysis of current events, social issues. We seek to build communities of people of different faiths and ideologies to defend and promote democracy locally, nationally, and globally. And I want to tell you about a couple upcoming meetings. On August 20th at 2 p.m., we'll have our second Jan 6 Remembrance Event Planning Committee meeting. We're planning on putting on an event in Whittier, and we're helping people put on events in other parts of the country to remember what happened on January 6, 2021. It's to remember the attempted coup and the insurrection against the United States Congress. And it's important to remember what happened, because if we let those actions of Donald Trump, for which he's now being prosecuted, thank God, finally, the wheels of justice have been so slow to turn, and everybody makes excuses for Donald Trump. Everyone wants to make an excuse for why they can't prosecute him. That's why he gets away with so much. And we don't want him to be a dictator for life. And if he wins, and he looks like he's going to win the Republican nomination, we really need to keep this in front of people's minds. He's still the front runner for the Republican nomination. So we're organizing an event in Whittier, and we're helping others organize events in their hometowns. So join us on August 20th at 2 p.m. and you can register for that at tinyurl.com/Jan6th 2024, and that 6 is 6th there. And then our next meeting of this group, the Nonpartisan Red Pill Men's Group, where we will be on September 3rd. So we're doing this monthly. And so to register for that, go to tinyurl.com/redpillmen. And then be sure to check out our YouTube page on YouTube, the Truth and Democracy Coalition. You can go to youtube.com/@Truth and Democracy Coalition. And I'm going to put all these links for you in the chat so that you can have them readily available to you. So you're here to listen. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Jacqueline. Okay. So I think I'm going to want to share my screen here. Let's see. So I guess what I'm wondering whether I should share my experience first or go. I don't know if you follow this. I did an episode on my sexual abuse history, and I went through a number of things on it, a number of events, and you can find that on our YouTube page, on our audio podcast. But what happened recently was that something triggered a sort of a memory of something that happened after that I hadn't thought, and that's what a repressed memory, how it is. It's something you haven't thought about. I haven't thought about for a while. Suddenly remembering, and then it comes with a bunch of emotions. And after all of that, from if you listen to that show all the way into early adulthood, I'm in community college, and in dealing with these rememberings and I've been ruminating a lot. I've been, dating. It's bringing up, and I think women know this, it brings up a lot of these childhood issues. And then just writing out that list and telling everybody brings up issues. And so I'm in community college at this time, and I'm being asked to pose nude for this class. I'm being asked to pose nude in front of this class in a lecture hall, about 100 people, and they want me to pose nude. And it's sort of an involved story, but involves that they do this calendar of men, and it was supposed to be an art history or art appreciation class, and we got these lectures about how so respectful it was and all of that. But I was in the class, and I was put in the class, and so I was put in the class for a reason. Okay, maybe it transferred, and I was okay, but I hated the class. There was nothing going on. What the teacher taught was wrong. I think they even had strippers come into the class. And to me, I found it very humiliating. And as somebody who had been through all that sexual abuse, I didn't want to stand up. I didn't want to be naked in front of 100 people. And I was afraid I would run away and cry. But there's another part of me that wants to have a thick enough skin to do these types of things, to think that it may lead to sexual activity, and maybe it could have had I not been so traumatized. But it was systematic. In other words, I was targeted, and they pressured me, and it was asked repeatedly of me in front of other people. And then maybe something, I have the memories of, being led in and asked and offered money, and with 100 people in the freaking audience behind the curtain waiting for me. But I don't want to go into all those details. It was just, a systematic attempt to identify men at the school, at the community college, who they could include in their calendar, and to pressure me into that when there was no way I was going to do it. I was afraid I was going to start crying and run off the stage, and I did not want that. And I felt it was humiliating, and I felt that my saying no should have been respected, And then I found that, a lot of women maybe wanted to see me nude, but as far as dating, they just wanted to see a poor boy nude. They didn't want to go out. They want to date me. They want to have a relationship. So I didn't see it adding, and I have all this sensitivity about it just being a trick. And then to put this into some perspective, more recently, around when I'm 30 or 40 years old, I go to this singles trip to the river. And part of the singles trip to the river is this party where the boats hook up and the women are exposing themselves and stuff like that. And I didn't want to go. So I didn't go, because I didn't want to be sitting in the back of a boat reading a book, or swimming around. And this stuff triggers PTSD symptoms in me, and I don't like being treated like a chump either. And that comes up from something that happened recently. But I didn't want to go. And so I didn't go. I went and played poker instead. And then the next morning I came down, and the guy who ran the group was pissed, apparently. And so he sat there, and then he had these women do it, flash me. And the guys were all like fucking dogs, and I was just close. I just blocked my view. I wasn't I thought, I can just sit here and nothing's going to happen. When it's over, it's over. And then I can lift my head up. And I thought about trying to lift my head up to look, but I thought, what are they going to see on my face, and what's going to happen if I do, and it's obviously not going to be pleasure. And then, but the guy, what are you doing? But his wife was there. And then all of a sudden I couldn't stop the tears from coming. I couldn't stop myself from crying. I even couldn't stop myself from letting out a short wail. And stop, 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 stop. You know? And I actually, is that how that makes you feel? Yes, that's how it makes me feel. And I ended up just leaving because I didn't want to be crying in front of them. So, so those are two memories. It's very different from how probably a lot of men would react to that situation. And so this is the article. Sexual victimization by women is more common than previously known. And this is a 2017 article, but I ran across it by Laura Stemple and it's like Ian Meyer. And it's just some facts I'll go over, and then we'll see if anybody wants to talk about it. It says that the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, has some data that revealed over a 1-year period that men and women were equally likely to experience non-consensual sex, and most male victims reported female perpetrators. And over their lifetime, 79% of men who were made to penetrate someone else, a form of rape in the view of most researchers, reported female perpetrators. Unlike most men who experience sexual coercion and unwanted sexual likewise, most men who experience sexual coercion and unwanted sexual contact had female perpetrators. So it says here, the biggest threat to women serving time does not come from male corrections staff. Instead, it's female victims are more than 3 times as likely to experience sexual abuse by other female inmates than by male staff. And in the juvenile correctional facilities, female staff are also much more significant a threat than male staff. More than 9 in 10 juveniles who reported staff sexual victimization were abused by women. And also, we know of hybristophilia and these women who get attracted to these criminal, violent men, and how prison staff, females, get involved with these men all the time. And then it says that that what they're reporting is consistent with feminist principles in important ways. And one is the common one-dimensional portrayal of women as harmless victims reinforces outdated stereotypes, which keeps us from seeing women as complex human beings able to wield power, even in misguided or violent ways. And the assumption that men are always perpetrators and never victims reinforces unhealthy ideas about men and their supposed invincibility. And also, about that they actually have feelings, and that these hypermasculine ideals can reinforce aggressive male attitudes and at the same time callously stereotype male victims of sexual abuse as failed men, or I might say as broken men. And be aware of the popular misconception that for men, all sex is welcome. Male victims often feel embarrassed to report sexual victimization. And if they do report it, they are frequently met with a response that assumes no real harm was done. And that's so true about that. And I can think of a recent event where, every time you go someplace, you're subject to being solicited. There's always a woman out there who wants to. I went to a weed place just recently, and it upset me because the women want to show you the breast. The woman's shoving her breast in my face. And I look over at the tip jar; it's full, even with a wad of $20 bills. So I know what they're doing here. They're offering sexual services and laundering the money through tips. And And I'm just going to a weed shop. It doesn't say strip club, and I don't go to strip clubs. I don't like them. And so, you can't go anywhere without some women sizing you up for your money, or seeing if they can turn a relationship into profit. So a study of youth, let's see, found that females comprise 48% of those self-reported committing rape or attempted rape. And see, victims of female perpetrated sexual violence suffer emotional and psychological harm, just like victims of male perpetrated abuse. And when professionals fail to take victimization by women seriously, this only compounds victim suffering by minimizing the harm they experience. To thoroughly dismantle sexual victimization, we must grapple with its many complexities, which requires an attention to all victims and perpetrators, regardless of their sex. And like I said before, male perpetrated sexual violence came into public attention after centuries of denial and indifference, and men have changed and worked and tried to become more ethical in their sexuality, and tried to become and more aware of their tendencies to victimize or take advantage of women. So we've done that, and women really haven't faced that in the way that men have been forced to face up to their sexualities. And attention to sexual victimization perpetrated by women should be understood as a necessary next step in continuing and expanding upon this legacy of making people aware of sexual abuse. Any comments, any questions about that?
Well, like I say, but just because some women did that too, doesn't mean all women are bad, right?
Well, that's the myth of the good and bad women. There's obviously there are differences. There are women who are criminals and women who are not criminals, right? So there's obviously a lot of difference between women, but at the same time, obviously all women don't abuse boys. I'm not sure that all women don't abuse men. I think we live in a pretty abusive system. I would say that I'm starting to think about calling these things a culture of prostitution. That's what we live in. And, I didn't like being propositioned at that weed club, at that weed store. I didn't like that. I didn't like having to avert my eyes, because if I don't avert my eyes, right, I'm just some creep who took a cheap look and didn't want to give a tip. Right?
Yeah.
So,
but still, that doesn't answer the question about.
I think there are fundamental things that are going on that are creating this sort of promiscuity in women that is abusive. And the very fact that a woman wants to make a profit off of her relationship with a man, wants to make sure that she financially benefits from that relationship. And they may deny that, but none of them want to marry someone who makes less money than they do. And so many young women think that, men should have to pay. They're always trying to get something. I just got propositioned by somebody who lives in my complex. I'm trying to meet women, I'm looking for women. And next thing I know, this woman wants me to pay $300 to have sex with her, and I told her I didn't need to do that and a lot of other things, but, I was upset by it, because, why do women think that they can do that? How many women out there are going to strip clubs, to male strip clubs, and having sex and interacting with the strippers? Oh, good. How many women out there, are using men for meals? How many women out there are dragging men through the mud for money? I mean, is there this distinction between good women and bad women really just that sort of, what do you call it? I don't know if you call it a double standard, but sort of a myth, when actually all women are involved to some degree or another. Okay, Dan, let's get you in here.
Well, I noticed in the comments, there's a guy named Jose Campos has a question.
Okay.
He has a question before I do.
Okay, all right, let's look for Jose here. Where is Jose?
I'm right here.
Anyway, go ahead and ask why I do this.
I was hearing you talk about
are.
your what happened to you and the encounter with that woman. And for instance, if I were to encounter a woman like that, what's the best approach I could, with respect, I could treat her and make her feel valued? Because I know those types of women's are they do that because they're not valued, or because they're missing some sort of love or something in them. What can I do to make that type of difference in that woman's life?
I don't think, well, I'm not sure, Jose, that you're right about that. You know, as we know, people do things for various reasons, different reasons. Every individual life is unique in that regard. But at the same time, there are trends and there are patterns. And what we see in prostitution is not necessarily women's oppression. Sure, there's been women who have been forced into prostitution. Sure, there's trafficking and so forth and all that. But a large portion, if not all of them, are doing that willingly. That's what they do. It's not oppression. That's what they do. So, and what I did, I'll tell you what I did, and I ruminated about it. Should I have said anything? What I did is I averted my eyes. I didn't look. And I think the other two women, treating me like a freaking chump, like I'm going to just lap them up and give them a bunch of money if they show me their boobies, and sort of pushing it on me, without really any concern about why I came to the store and what I really wanted. So I think there's something that I think your idea, Jose, of trying to be somebody who saves this woman, and that's what some in the manosphere call, and I'm not being derogatory, Jose, I just want to use this term, it's a Captain Save-A-Hole, that we can go out and just save these women, who are basically abusing and using and manipulating and profiting and sticking money in their pockets. I don't know.
Yes, I totally understand what you're saying, and I do realize the manipulation that type of women are, but that's I was referring to as in just like an encounter where, just like without even wanting to, you're walking down the street and this woman approaches you and this and that. How can I make that difference in her life and make her feel like a valued woman, and that she's that she's not just trash or a hoe, or like I'll be a good man. I don't know if I explain myself.
Well, I can tell you that one of the problems I faced in that situation is what I ruminated on afterwards was what I wanted to say and what I should say. How am I going to phrase this? What am I going to tell her? I'm going to tell her, I didn't come to a strip club, and I don't appreciate being propositioned and solicited, and and without saying, I'm sick of a bunch, or calling them names or doing something, because if I do something like that, then they'll write it off. They'll continue doing what they're doing, you know? So I can't really come off and say, you know, something mean to them, because that's not going to help me. You know, it may feel good temporarily, but at the same time, I don't want to be accosted either and taken advantage of and pressured to give more money to them. You know, I don't want that either. And I really don't want them pushing themselves on me, you know. And I want some respect. I want some dignity. I want to be treated like a human being with respect. I'm not a dog, you know, I'm not trash, you know. And so, but what I did do is I've just finished filing a complaint with the marijuana cannabis board or cannabis control. And who knows, I may go to the sheriff's department and report it. Because basically, the way that we need to take care of this is no more, not all men want this. Just like the thing with me and the nude modeling, this woman thought she can get away with it because she got away with it for years. No man ever filed a sexual harassment charge about it. You know, they can do it because they can get away with it. And so to protect ourselves, number one, and also to change, you know, this idea that they can just go about selling their body to anybody because they're young and somewhat attractive, really doesn't, you know, it's not necessarily a good thing. It's not necessarily a healthy thing either, you know. But so you can get them out of that, but I don't think we can be Captain Save-A-Ho and save these women. I think that's not what we need to do. We need to protect ourselves from them in some ways. But we also need not to, we also want to be functional in the dating environment. And we want to be able to get along with women, and we want to be able to meet women, and we want to be able to be intimate with women, and we want to be able to have a good time with women too. So it's really a conundrum of trying to figure out how to respond to these things. But I think like my report of sexual harassment, that thing got that program closed down. And if I remember right, and all these memories coming, that there was a lot going on there. They were taking money, embezzling it from the school, selling the pictures to clubs in West Hollywood, you know, and there's more going on, you know. And so when you finally report it, you know, then and actually take that action and stand up for yourself, then maybe that would have an educational effect. You know, it's not just you can sort of rock up and flap your boobs in front of a guy and he'll give you money, and that's what he wants, to be accosted, you know, because everyone, you know, women can expose themselves and not face any criminal penalties at all. And men, however, if they expose themselves, they're going to jail, they're being outed, they're going to get something on their ankle probably, they're going to be restricted from being in their schools. I mean, the whole shebang comes on them. Women expose themselves and they get men cheering and yelping and nothing happens. But they need to be aware of where they do that and in what context and in what places it's appropriate and in what places you can get away with it.